All right. Authorities in Las Vegas have changed the timeline once again for the October 1st rampage. 58 dead, we know that. Over 500 wounded, 40 plus are still in the hospital. Now, the Clark County Sheriff's Department now saying a security guard was shot by the gunman in Mandalay Bay Hotel just as the massacre was beginning, rather than 6 minutes before at 10:59 when Stephen Paddock really got underway. He began firing indiscriminately at the Country Music Festival right after 10 o'clock. So the Sheriff's Department says it's not hiding anything from the public, just getting it clear.
There is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything. Reference this investigation. The dynamics and the size of this investigation requires us to go through voluminous amounts of information in order to draw an accurate picture. My intent, like I stated earlier, is to give you information as I know it, unverified, to calm the public, not to establish a legal case.
My sense is the sheriff feels as though his integrity is being challenged. He also got very emotional when discussing the heroism on display that fateful night.
Samuel Whitwer. Excuse me for my emotion. Samuel was laying on his couch with a very intensive wound to his leg. During the melee and his attempt to evacuate victims, he sustained a broken leg. But he remained on scene and provided security for the medical personnel. So at this point, I want to thank the community. I want to thank you for letting me be your sheriff and Vegas strong. Thank you.
Didn't take questions. Joining us now for their reaction. They've been with us through this entire atrocity. Is counterterrorism expert Aaron Cohen, and in Washington, Jim Hansen, president of the Security Studies Group. Back to the timeline, and I want your analysis on this. It turns out 9:59, and the security guard went there, Aaron. But he did not get shot at 9:59 like we thought. Instead, he saw the barricade there. He couldn't get any further, so he went to the above floor. By the time he got himself down to the door again, it was 10:05. Then he got shot. The gunman starts at 10:20. What do you think has taken so long to get to this timeline, and do you think we'll get another revision?
I think that this is a guy. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of rounds being fired on a hotel that's how many floors?
30. Well, I don't know how many, but it's the 32nd floor.
Yeah, Brian, I've been training SWAT teams for 15 years. Let me tell your audience, the clearing a hotel of this scale, and Las Vegas Metro SWAT team is a full-time SWAT team comprised of dozens of full-time entry SWAT members. And even with the full team deployed into the hotel, to be able to clear every one of those halls to determine where the shots are coming from, regardless of whether you're getting assistance from an on-site security guard who may or may not have been shot, it's all irrelevant to me. The size of this tactical clearing is so colossal that the fact that the SWAT team managed to get to that door, regardless of when the security guard was hit, and then be able to make entry on that room, regardless of how they got in using a breach, whether the shooting stopped or hadn't stopped,
right.
The fact that they got to that door, the fact that they were able to make entry on that room is in itself. These guys are chemical dumping. Right. They're in tunnel vision. Their neck hairs are standing on them. These guys have families too. It's colossal. This guy's just figuring out all the pieces to put everything together here so that he can figure out what the heck happened.
Right. Jim, I'm not going to, so many law enforcement watch us and watching you right now. I'll never be critical of them. I've never done it. But it's 12 days later, and they've made a bunch of revisions since. Now, he was upset because he thinks people are questioning his integrity. They're not. They're just trying to get it down. The fact that at 10:05 he gets shot, but at 9:59 he encounters the gunman, what does that tell you?
Again, I think when he got shot versus when he encountered the gunman, and the fact that they messed up the timeline on that is probably more of a fact that sheriff has had, I don't know, a couple hours sleep every night since this happened, has been racking his brain for, is there anything we could have done to respond faster? You know, they've had to look at all that stuff and say, okay, the calls came in at this time, we responded at this time. Was that as fast as it could have been done? Was there anything we could have done to get there quicker that might have saved a life? And I think in the end, this was an honest mistake that was made just in the timeline rather than something sketchy about what actually happened.
So, Aaron, disabuse me of this. He brings gloves to survive, and they said protective clothing in order to get out. He's trying to shoot at the tanks. That rumor that we went over that one day turns out to be true. He thought maybe he could explode them, I imagine. Did something with the car. We haven't figured that out yet. But then he ends up killing himself in 9 minutes. Why would he kill himself in 9 minutes? And are you sure of that? Do you think that he could have misfired, like killed himself by mistake? I think we've all seen those. We might have all seen those pictures online of what he looks like.
I don't think he killed him. Excuse me, Brian. I don't think he killed himself by mistake. And that's why I don't believe that there's any link to ISIS. I don't believe he's a terrorist. He wasn't trying to blow himself up. He wasn't. A terrorist goal would be to continue shooting and firing and firing. The fact that this guy ended up getting killed before the SWAT team made entry, per the report, leads me to believe that he was mentally off. There was something very disturbing about this guy, or disturbed mentally and psychologically. Him killing himself means that he was trying to get as much damage done, and the protective clothing meant that either his hands were going to get hot from barrels and from receivers and from handles and from as much fire putting down as possible. I just think that was tactical considerations that he made to be able to fire all of those weapons in the shortest period of time to do as much damage as possible.
So Jim, you can answer that, and I want to add this to it and see if you want to jump in on it. Turns out he was there 2 days earlier. The reason why they were confused is because his wife rang in 2 days later to get her name on the room. Why that was necessary, I'm not sure. Was it to get a key? Who knows? And that's why people said, well, he was actually needed 2 extra days to get that arsenal up there. Does any of that mean anything to you?
You know, Brian, the sad thing is there are no facts that are known exclusively that are inconsistent with this being one guy who is obsessed with killing a ton of people, bought the guns himself, did most of the work himself, and ended up dead in that hotel room. You know, the problem is, and this is the sad thing, we all want some sort of closure for the victims. We want an enemy to hang this on. We want something. Instead, there's a void, and that void fills up with conspiracy theories. And unfortunately, we may have to live with the fact that this horrific shooting that killed all these people didn't have anything more than one sad, sick individual at the heart of it.
But if that woman, his girlfriend, who ended up in the Philippines, came up to that room, she had to see 23 bags of weapons. And for her, if she did in fact see that, unless this guy's just a master hide-and-seeker, if she did in fact see that and didn't report it, she's in a lot of trouble, and she's got a lot more to say than it's a big surprise. I thought he was breaking up with me. Jim and Aaron, thanks so much.
Thanks,
Good
Brian.
to be here, Brian.
All right, coming up straight.